Shining jump! Authorized. Progress!
Your rider tint increases the power by adding to brightness.
Shining hopper! When I shine, darkness fades.
Hello YouTube, this is Shirley426, and today we have a review of the Tamashii Nation's 2020 exclusive SHF Kamen Rider Zero-One Shining Hopper. I hope that kind of makes sense. So usually up to this point, when you see me review a figure, especially an SHF Figure Arts, it's either just a retail version or a premium Bandai version. But as you just heard, I just said Tamashii Nation's exclusive. So before we get into the review, let me just push this a little bit to the back and show you guys the box. Here is the box of the figure. So I would like to point out this. So the only way to actually get this figure officially is to attend the Tamashii Nation's event, and you have to actually go there and physically and actually purchase this figure. So that's the only way you can actually buy this figure. This is not like something you can pre-order unless you have another middleman that actually deals with this stuff as well. But that's not really an official way to buy that. The only official way to buy that is in this format. So yeah. So for me, buying a retail figure is no problem as well. And then when it comes to premium Bandai, yes, most of them they would take pre-orders, but of course if they don't take pre-orders in my country officially, I have to also go through some middlemen and pay extra prices. Now this one, I had to go through a little bit of trouble to get this through multiple services, but I was able to finally get one as well. Alright, so let me just get him off the stand, and as you see right in front of you, you will see 5 figures. These 5 figures, or the other 4 figures, I have reviewed them as well, and they're all are other forms of the main character, which is Kamen Rider Zero-One. So, I would like to point a few things out. I'm just going to take away a few forms. So this is Kamen Rider 001. He was a movie exclusive form, meaning that he wasn't actually, or this form was not actually seen in the main series. I would like to point that out. Although he could transform into this form if he wanted to, but there's no reason to. So that's that. And then one of my recent reviews was Kamen Rider Zero-One Metal Cluster Hopper. I absolutely love this figure, and yeah, I once I saw this figure, or basically this form, I knew they were going to make an SHF figure of this, and I did my best to obtain him, and I did. Definitely love it. Okay, that's that. So some time ago, I actually reviewed the Kamen Rider Zero-One SHF Figure Arts review. The SHF Kamen Rider Zero-One, his base form. This was a retail figure. I really liked the writer himself, and he gave me, or the series in general, just gave me a really good first impression with all the basic forms, or even his upgraded forms. So yeah, this wasn't too expensive. Although the only downside was that this thing did not come with any weapons, because the weapon was included in Kamen Rider Vulcan, which was also a very good figure, and that was a retail, so it wasn't too much of a big deal for me. And then after this, I reviewed this figure, the Shining Assault Hopper. Definitely loved the design, definitely loved the quality of the figure, and once again, in the show, when this was first shown and transformed, it really gave out a nice, combat battle scene as well, so definitely gave me a strong impression. But as I mentioned before in his review, I mentioned that this is not exactly there. I mentioned that there was a form between these two forms, so this was technically a completed form of the time, but there was another middle form that I did mention, and I believe at the time the figure was not actually released or announced yet, so that was kind of odd, but we finally got the figure. So a lot of people would kind of agree to the point where this form was kind of excessive to be his upgraded form. There's just a lot too much stuff going on, and if you were thinking the same thing when you saw my review, you are correct, because this was the actual middle form between the two. Later, he was able to kind of borrow this assault grip, you see this silver part, and then use it to transform into this form right away instead of this form. So yeah, that's the way how the story goes. So let me just take this one away as well, and see. Let's see what we got. So I'm not gonna go too in detail when it comes to articulation, but let's see what we get in components. So first of all, you get obviously the figure itself, Shining Hopper. Definitely loving. One thing I actually really like this form compared to the Shining Assault Hopper at first, because the first impression. But once again, when the Shining Assault Hopper actually debuted in the show, definitely also gave me a strong impression to the point where I actually started liking him as well. So what you get is obviously the rider himself, and then right out of the box you should have these open style hands, and then we do get a progress key inside there, and on the side of the belt you get the Rising Hopper progress key. Now another thing where people were freaking out on my Shining Assault Hopper review was that I actually was able to pull out the progress key here. Oh, give me a moment. Man, it's really hard to do it in front of camera, isn't it? So as you can see, I was able to pull out the progress key from the belt. So here is the progress key. So a lot of people were asking me, how did I pull this out? And I basically said I pried it out. I got a small, thin knife and then pried it open, and I was able to pull it out. So apparently a lot of people were contacting me that I was lucky because this thing is technically or supposed to be glued inside there. And at first I was kind of confused, so I actually did the same thing on the Shining Hopper, and I could not take it out. I did the same thing. I applied the same force, and this thing is not coming out, which means it is actually glued inside, meaning that I was pretty lucky to the fact that I was able to pull out the progress key from the belt, outside on the side of the belt, without no problems. So yeah, just wanted to point that out as well. Now I should point out that the one that was included in the Kamen Rider Vulcan Assault Wolf and then the Metal Cluster Hopper, they actually changed the size of those progress keys so they could pop out, but they're much more thinner and they're less usable. I just wanted to point that out. Alright, other than that, we also have another progress key, the Shining Hopper progress key inside the belt. Definitely looking good. And that's pretty much it for the component on the figure itself. Other than that, you get extra hands. So you get technically 3 sets of hands and an extra hand, a different type of hand, 2 of the different type of hands. So number 1, we get these multi-purpose hands. Now the figure does not come with any weapons, but you are able to use these hands to, wield or grab other weapons such as the Authorized Buster, which is technically in Assault Wolf, and then the Axe Mode, which is included with Shining Assault Hopper. Now you get these pointing hands, which is actually meant for one of his signature poses as well, or technically not. It's not these hands. There's another hand as well, but if you've seen the series, the character he tends to do this pointing style hands in most of his poses. So that's one thing I would like to point out. And then we get typical fist hands. You gotta have some fists. And then finally we have these 2 hands. Now these are both meant for the right hand. So number 1 is a pointing hand with his fist, with the fist. So this is one, and then the other one is a thumbs up hand. So these are actually meant for the character's signature pose that he tends to does in the show. So that's that. Alright, so before we go over to articulation, let's do some quick side-to-side comparisons with Shining Assault Hopper, because these are the 2 forms that actually share some designs. So as you can see, just slap a few more blue armor onto the Shining Hopper, and then which becomes the Shining Assault Hopper. So you can definitely see they use the same base format, and then even I believe these extra side parts on the body are exactly the same as far to my knowledge. If you look at the back, yes, they are also the same shape. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting combination, but once again, if you see in the show, it does actually make sense. So that's that. Alright, so now let's go over some articulation. So, oops, sorry about that. So definitely loving overall design. I do think that this is a much more natural upgrade form. Going from this to this is actually much more natural, if you ask me. Alright, so the head, it's pretty much what you expect for any SHF figure art. So let's see what we got. So we have a nice, it can go down that much and then up pretty well, not as much as I thought. And 360, I would say you are able to go if you force it, but once again, there's a human inside, so no need to do so. And one thing I've noticed with this specific figure is that there's this other middle neck joint here, and this part tends to move a lot when you move the head as well, but this one I'm not having too much trouble as well. It seems like it's kind of stuck in there, and I might need to move the lower section a little bit to the left so it actually goes into the middle. Alright, so, and then let's look at the body. So the body part, it has a nice ab crunch going on here, and you can see the top section and the ab sections are actually moving separately. So just be aware when you're displaying this, make sure that everything is lined up and not, you know, crooked as well. So, and one thing I've noticed now, comparing when I was reviewing Shining Assault Hopper, I didn't really notice these, but these parts are pretty sharp as well. And so, and I would say even on the ones on the head, they're not as sharp compared to these parts, but I would say like these horns would be like one of the parts that you can accidentally break. Not because they're fragile, but maybe you actually give you know, force, or if you accidentally drop it in a specific angle, these parts might be one of those parts that could chip off. So just be careful. Now the shoulder armors, really, after reviewing like Kamen Rider Saber and Caliber, it's really good to see some regular shoulder armor as well. So the shoulder armor is actually attached to the main shoulder on the arm, so you can go 360 with no problem as well. And let me just back up a little bit, and then you can go to the side about 90 degrees as well, and then you still have your 360 twist, and you still have a nice bend going on here. And hands are your typical SHF style hands, which the ball joint is on the arm, not on the hand. So it's basically the opposite of Gunpla, because the Gunpla, the ball joints are actually on the hand. Alright, now let's look at the main waist section. So here we have the belt, definitely looking clean as well. And one thing I did show you guys the progress key, but as you can see, because the symbol there, once you push it in, the symbol actually shows there, because that's the middle section over there is a clear piece that can look inside through the belt. So I think that's a pretty good detail going on there. Once again, if you have for some reason, if you have an extra, you know, large progress key, you can always attach it there. And that's pretty much it for the belt. So once again, I don't think I'm having yeah, so I'm still having that trouble where this is not my fault, but technically it's the manufacturer's process, where I am not a big fan of this gap that you see here. So you can see the belt is supposed to technically cover that section up, but it barely covers it up. It's actually technically right on top of that line. So I do wish they would make the belt larger, or basically just try to move the belt that it would cover up the entire line. But that's just one nitpick of mine, so yeah. Now the legs, they're typical. It's pretty much what you think. You have a nice side swivel going on here. You can see it's a pretty interesting structure when you look at it, when you compare with other figures. But still, now you can see the outer armor here. Because of this, you have to actually make sure, if you want to go to the side, you have to make sure that the armor goes through inside there, so you can go to the side. But because of that, you still have some limitations on going to the side, so you can go about less than 90 degrees. Of course, if you use the other leg, you can give a pretty decent kick, so it's not too limited when you think about it. Of course, I believe in Shining Assault Hopper it was a little bit more tricky, but still, you know, workable. Now the legs can go about front 90 degrees and back not as much as 90 degrees because of the back section is actually much more larger. So you would have to go a little bit to the side like this instead of going directly straight to go back about 90 degrees. So you have to work your way around. And then we have a nice bend going on here as well. And then we have a nice feet articulation, which you can go side to side. And then we have a nice pivot joint as well. And then we have a nice toe bend. Oops, I think I bent it a little bit too much, but still that is possible. Although I don't think a human can go that much, unless he's wearing very long shoes. And then now for just someone was asking me on a different SNS page where now these are technically designed like boots, but there is no articulation on this middle section where it looks like a boot, you know, opening. Alright, so that's pretty much basic. That's it for the basic articulation. Now, I'm not gonna go over any like specific poses and such, because it's pretty much capable of doing all the poses that you see in the show, or most of it, and then I've done enough demonstrating with the previous forms as well. So, yeah. Now, I would like to point this out that this is not an easy figure to get, because this is supposed to be purchased at a specific event in Japan. So if you're seeing this online, it's going to be very expensive, because you have to go through a middleman as well that actually attend that event and actually purchase that figure. So you're probably going to pay more than its original price. But if you're a big fan like me, and if you have some extra cash to spend, I would definitely highly recommend this form, because it does actually give you the completed, you know, it does complete your collection as well. And I'm willing to go up to SHF, if they ever release or announce Kamen Rider, SHF Kamen Rider 02, that's as far as I'm willing to go. I am not going to purchase there's another Expo, not Expo, but the Tamashii Nation exclusive, which was a the realizing hopper, which is exactly the same design as this, with different color edges on, like, there's like was a different color scheme on like the edges of the armor, and a different color progress key inside the belt. So I'm passing on that one, but I'm really hoping they go up to 02 as well. Anyway, thank you for watching the review. This was the review of the SHF Kamen Rider, the SHF Kamen Rider Zero-One Shining Hopper. If you guys got any questions or requests in the comment below, I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time!